Aloha Booktube, I'm Marilyn, nickname Maya, and today I'm so excited because today is the kickoff for Mental Health May. Mental Health May is a readathon that Kim from Middle of the Book March and I are doing to celebrate Mental Health May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And Mental Health Awareness Month, I found out, was started in 1949. So even before I was born. So that was good to know. I'm going to be talking about anxiety disorders because that's what I suffer from. And anxiety disorders is a big umbrella where many other phobias or panic are underneath that umbrella. So it's a lot to talk about. And like I said, I found out that that anxiety disorders is a new thing, but it wasn't new for me. And when I was growing up, I was berated, called scaredy cats or baby or weak, when actually I was suffering from a mental illness. And I've been working to overcome that mental illness. And the first thing I want to talk about is the 4 words in our readathon. So we have 4, you can't call them prompts really, but they're words that as the weeks went on to the kickoff today, it began to have more meaning for me. So the words are disordered, caring, overcoming, and discovery. And I was trying to fit these books into some of these categories, but I found out that they mean something different to me as I began to think about it. So disordered now means to me that when you have an anxiety disorder or any mental illness, it causes oftentimes, most times, your life to become disordered. You can't go on with your everyday life, and it sometimes becomes hard to even get out of bed. And I'm coming to what NAMI's theme is for this month. So NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And their theme is More Than Enough campaign this year. So what they say is, it's an opportunity for all of us to come together and remember the inherent value we each hold, no matter our diagnosis, appearance, socioeconomic status, background, or ability. We want every person out there to know that if all you did was wake up today, that's more than enough. No matter what, you are inherently worthy of more than enough life, love, and healing. Showing up just as you are for yourself and the people around you is more than enough. So I find that, really encouraging. So let me go back to the 4 words. So disordered, I have 2 memoirs. The first one is On Edge by Andrea Petersen, A Journey Through Anxiety. And of all the books, this one was the one that I wanted to read. I wanted to keep on reading, but I controlled myself because I wanted to really wait until I got a chance to tell you what it's about. So it says it's a wry, bracingly honest account of living with anxiety, a racing heart, difficulty breathing, overwhelming dread. Andrea Petersen was first diagnosed with an anxiety disorder at the age of 20, but she later realized that she had been experiencing panic attacks since childhood. With time, her symptoms multiplied. She agonized over every odd physical sensation. She developed fears of driving on highways, going to movie theaters, even licking envelopes. Although having a name for her condition was an enormous relief, it was only the beginning of a journey to understand and master it, one that took her from psychiatrist's office to yoga retreats to the Appalachian Trail. If I have one, and she really admits it, that she had loving parents and enough money to do all those things to really go through this journey. And not many people in lower socioeconomic situations have that opportunity. But still, there are tools, and I'm going to go back into that. The second book, I wanted to open it because some of you said you really like me to open up books, and but I didn't want to waste your time. But this memoir is called Little Panic by Amanda Stern, Dispatches from an Anxious Life. And this one is interesting. It didn't grab me as much as the first one did, but Little Panic, the world never made any sense to Amanda Stern. How could she trust time to keep flowing, the sun to rise, gravity to hold her feet to the ground, or even her own body to work the way it was supposed to? Deep down, she knows that there's something horribly wrong with her, some defect that her siblings and friends don't have to cope with. And maybe that's a little self-indulgent. And the reason I say that, only because when I looked at Goodreads, there were a lot of good reviews, but some people said that she was whining too much. And this goes into stigma. You know, you can't whine if you're having an anxiety disorder. But yeah, so it says it's an intimate and sweeping story of hypervigilance. One thing interesting about this book is that she goes back and forth between her mother and father's house because they're divorced. And she ends up in Greenwich Village at the same time that Eaton Patz, who was kidnapped while going to school one morning, and they only found his killer recently, and he became the symbol for the milk cartons with the children's names on it. And she was living in that area, so I'm sure that didn't help her anxiety much. But I'm excited to reading this. I bought this, and so I hope it's good. But like I said, I'm more excited about the first book. Now, let me go back into the words, because this is the word that really, you know, of our words, caring is the second one. So disordered was how our lives become disordered with anxiety disorders or any mental illness. But the caring, yeah, we care about people. We're supposed to, right? But what about the caretakers out there? The people who either have a mental illness or don't, but are caring for someone who is struggling with mental illness. And I had an experience yesterday where I was helping a friend go through the system, so to speak, of what mentally ill, and you know, whether you're suffering from a mild mental illness or a severe mental illness, and if you don't have enough money to go to a fancy psychiatrist, what they have to go through and what the carers have to go through in helping them get there. And I know there's social workers that are supposed to do that, but the person who's caring for someone who's mentally ill, and I have a mentally ill son, severely mentally ill. He's not the person I was helping because he lives in another state, and he suffers from many severe mental illnesses, not just one. And I know that he's had trouble navigating the mental health system, because it is a system, and systems go wrong a lot of times. So I'm going to, in future videos, talk about books that are for people who care for the mentally ill family and friends, and you know, how they struggle. And what if you have a mental illness and you're also trying to help a child or a friend? You know, how can you make it easier on yourself? And I'm also going to be talking about Toolbox. This is a new thing that came out, the Mental Health Toolbox. There are tools that you go through that help you with mental illness. And I'm going to be talking about some of those things now. And I just talked about how, not her, not yet, but what it says about Andrea Petersen and how she used so many tools because she had a lot of money. Also, I don't know if she had a lot of money. I haven't read the book yet, but I know that she wasn't so poor off that she can do all these things and go so many places and get help. But there are, even for people who don't have a lot of money, there are tools that we can use for getting through a tough time with anxiety. Even if it's just doing yoga like I do yoga in my house. I don't go anywhere to do yoga. I used to go to the swimming pool. That really helped me. Going out in nature, having a list of tools to get through. And I'll be talking about that or showing books about that another time. Now, I want to talk about the next word that we have, and that's overcoming. Now, I said before in my last video that it's not so easy to overcome a mental illness. There's no cure yet. And I was thinking that I also suffered from, at a young age, fibromyalgia before they had a name for it. So maybe this is a theme in my life. But I did pick up a book called Overcoming Health Anxiety, because that's one thing that I think was my most problematic symptom, was worrying about my health since I was a young child. So this is sort of a workbook, and I kind of like that. And it's by Katherine M.B. Owens, PhD, and Martin M. Anthony, PhD. So this is sort of going to, and they're going to talk about CBT. So what is CBT? CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It's a form of psychological treatment that has been demonstrated to be effective for a range of problems, including depression, anxiety disorders, alcohol, and drug use. So this book it's very helpful, and I'm looking forward to doing some of the exercises and seeing how I can be helped, because these few weeks have been really tough for me anxiety-wise for many reasons. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing, this is like a workbook, and it's letting go of your fear of illness. And like I said, fear of illness has been with me since I was a child. And I talked about it in a prior video, how I was afraid of doctors and dentists and tongue depressors and, well, everything, basically. But illness was something that really stayed with me until recently, and until I had to go through stuff like childbirth and everything, and you have to go through certain things that you have no you have no control over, and you become a little bit stronger. But I think that I have to go a little bit deeper and find out why my health. I think I know, because I had a mother who was always worried about my health. So, it kind of goes together. So anyway, that's overcoming. So then we're going to go into the real overcoming. And that's the last word is discovery. And for discovery, I'm thinking of course, we want to end mental illness. We want to find a cure, if there is such a thing. And that would be the best thing in the world if there was a cure. But right now, the stigma against people with mental illness is sometimes more devastating than the illness itself, as I said before. And this last book that I'm going to talk about is called Nobody's Normal: How Culture Created the Stigma of Mental Illness by Roy Richard Grinker. And this book is nonfiction, and it's a little bit denser, well, at my first reading, first skimming. But what is it about? And I think it's very important in discovery. It says it's a compassionate and captivating examination of evolving attitudes toward mental illness throughout history and the fight to end the stigma. So it says, for centuries, scientists and society cast moral judgments on anyone deemed mentally ill, confining many to asylums. In Nobody's Normal, anthropologist Roy Richard Grinker chronicles the progress and setbacks in the struggle against mental illness stigma, from the 18th century through America's major wars and into today's high-tech economy. So Nobody's Normal argues that stigma is a social process that can be explained through cultural history, a process that began the moment we defined mental illness, that we learn from within our communities, and that we ultimately have the power to change. Through the legacies of shame and secrecy are still with us today, though. He writes that we are at the cusp of ending the marginalization of the mentally ill. In the 21st century, mental illnesses are fast becoming a more accepted and visible part of human diversity. I don't know if I totally agree with that. From what I've experienced in my life, but it's a wonderful hope. It's a wonderful hope. And like I was saying, when I was helping a friend yesterday through the mental health system, there was a person who was severely mentally ill and was trying to get some kind of financial help. And it was obvious that they were homeless and they were speaking to themselves. And, you know, people there were pretty judgmental in my view, and this person needed help, and they needed help right away. And I hope that someone, right before they were about to see somebody, they left, which is, you know, not uncommon. So that goes back to the caring, that we need to care more about the homeless and mentally ill, or we say in Hawaii, the houseless, and do more, especially in expensive cities where it's so expensive to live that the mentally ill are forced out to live outside. It's not a pleasant way. I mean, if you saw this person so sunburnt, so not having the clothes that any human being should wear, you know, having clothes that are so torn and you know, just rags, really. So that's where the caring comes in. We have to care about our community and care about the people who live there that might be struggling. Because I know that when I was going through the worst parts of my anxiety and agoraphobia, I would have loved someone to come to me and knock on my door and say, "Are you okay?" But of course, that's not going to happen. Hopefully that might happen in a more community-based society. I also wanted to talk briefly about our read, our group read. Maybe you should talk to someone. As you can see, I've been going through it since the end of April, and it's really, it's a large book. It's 400 and something pages. Well, it's about 400 pages, and it's very easy to get through, though, because it's bite-sized chapters, which I love. And the person who wrote the book, Lori Gottlieb, is a psychiatrist, and it's about her therapist, and our lives revealed. And I'm thinking our means the therapist and her lives as I go through it. And though I don't agree with everything that's in this book, I learned a lot. And I thought I knew a lot, having gone through the mental health system for most of my life. Well, I'm going to end here by saying I hope you will all join Kim and I for this wonderful, important readathon, and tell us your stories, because telling our stories is what helps people feel normalized, that we're not alone. So if you feel comfortable, please like and comment, and so people will get to see this video and maybe get some help. And I'm coming back very soon with so many more videos about mental health and how we can celebrate Mental Health May. So until we meet again, my friends, stay well, be kind, and aloha.